This livestream series is sponsored by Slice Engineering and the Mosquito Magnum Plus Hotend. Push absurd amounts of filament while maintaining the structural integrity of the Mosquito design. The Mosquito Magnum Plus can be configured with up to 100 watts of heating power, redundant 500 degrees Celsius rated thermistors, and air or water cooling. I'll be using the Magnum Plus for this build, and you can find the links in the description below. Also, thank you to Do It 3D and the Voron Printed Forward team for providing high quality parts for this build. I've purchased the rest of the parts on the regular, like the Formbot kit, upgrades from Fermier Labs, and little bits here and there. You can find links for everything in the description below. Now, let's get started with the build. Welcome everyone to this Voron 2.4 build. Let me all fill you in on what we are doing here. We're building a printer. It's been a while that I've actually built a printer from scratch and not just assembled, well, yet another Ender 3 out of the box. But today is this actually live? I don't know what these questions are. Yes, that intro was recorded, but this is live, obviously. We're gonna assemble it from a kit because sourcing a Voron is quite a task. It's gonna be Voron 2.4, which is a Core XY, well, I guess Core XY that moves along the Z-axis as well. It's got a static bed. We're gonna be doing the 300 by, well, it's a bit less, 300 is less, 300 by 300 by 300 millimeter cubed build volume. And yeah, it's gonna be a probably quite an involved build. So for all of you hoping that this might be a you watch this one video, this one stream, and we're gonna have a working printer, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I was informed that this would be a 25 plus hour stream, probably with all of you in chat. It's probably going to be a 30-hour stream series. So I'm going to build today for, I don't know, 4 hours or something until I feel like I've done my, I've done my fair share of building it until I'm exhausted. And then, yeah, we're going to keep on building. I think I'm going to do like every other day just to give me a day to recover. Live streaming is exhausting. So, yeah, we do have basically the entire Voron team here. I mean, I gotta say the Voron team, from my interactions with them, they're amazing people. It's a printer that, yes, maybe is a bit over-engineered. It's a bit overkill in a lot of regards, but it's from what I can tell, it's made by a great team of people, and they've put a ton of thought into the design and into actually, how do you call it? Into maintaining a community, into building a community, and just being there. So yeah, Nero 3DP, obviously YouTuber as well, building Vorons left and right. So if you want to check out more Voron streams, head over there, as well as a bunch of other people who have that wrench symbol next to them. I've added basically the entire Voron team as mods on the channel. So yeah, they're here if you got questions for them. I'm hoping, as long as you see them around in chat, I'm hoping they can answer some stuff there too. So let me go over the parts that we're going to be using. As you can see there behind me, I've cleared off the workbench for once, so yeah. Oh god, this thing is heavy. So some of you have already noted that we are doing a kit build. So this is the Formbot kit that basically has all the components in there that you should need for the build. I did replace some of them with higher quality ones. But basically this was my sort of easy way out of just having all the parts there as a, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. We'll discuss the kit quality versus self-source. So as far as I can tell, the kit quality is okay. It's like, of course you could source better parts, but it's all right. We'll see like how many issues we run into during the build, but that's going to be something we just, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. So electronics wise, like I said, I'm going to be using the Do It. So we're going to get to that in a second. Full Do It 3 6HC plus a 3HC expansion board. There would be simpler versions of the Do It that would work as well, but I have some things planned for this printer that will require the full set. We're going to get to that in a second. Basically, in the kit, this is kind of the mother load of parts here. This is all the little bits that you would have to self-source. So you've got a whole bag of screws, of inserts. Oh, are these M4? Not sure. Heatside inserts, T-nuts, screws, socket heads, cap head, well, socket heads. What are these called? Linsenkopf in German. Oh, we're gonna go through the manual in a second. They did not have any SKR boards in stock, but they did still send over the drivers. So this is 2209s. I'm not going to be using those. We've got power supplies. We have an LCD module, I believe. Yep, which we're not going to be using as well since we're going to do it. They're including drag chains. They're including connectors. These are solder connectors. I'm just noticing these. So these are, I don't know where these are supposed to go. So that's all the little bits that we're gonna need. Also linear rails. So on the topic of quality, these are completely unlabeled, no-name linear rails. So probably not the highest quality, but I've not had rails that were like that bad yet. For the build plate. So you can see they did include a magnetic style PEI, I don't know if this is PEI, but PEI coat bed. It feels pretty thin, but that might just be the size. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So this is coated. Supposedly, I've been told this works. It's got a magnet sticker. I've been told this might not work for an extended amount of time. So this I will be using as a print bed, and yeah, this is, you know, an upgrade if I need to. Heater mat, which is too small. The Voron uses a 230 volt heater. So, well, 220 doesn't really matter. And yeah, the build plate that is included, this is actually one of the parts that I am swapping out. Actually, let's get this out of the box. This does have a declaration on it. It's saying, hey, this is precision machined aluminum plate. So the surface has marks of processing, sure. As we test, the flatness of the part is 0 to 0.1 millimeters, which would be fine, but with a plate this size, what the Voron folks have told me, this might not be stress relief, so as you heat it up, it might cup. And that's just not something that would be a lot of fun. So the backside is raw, and the front side has those fly cutter head machining marks to it. Gee, what is that in the back? Ooh, that is a... You see that? There is like somebody dragged a ball along the bottom. But yeah, we're not going to be using this plate that has been, or that is included with the kit. Instead, I ordered this one from Thermio Labs, and this one is also machined flat. You can see it's like one big machining swoop over it, and this one is stress relief, so this is not going to cup as the as we apply heat to it. But again, the heater is a bit small for my taste, so this is 250. So it's not, the edges are going to be a bit cooler. So unfortunately, yeah, that's not going to be great. I might replace this eventually, but the bed is the one thing that I'm going to be playing with on this printer. Also from Thermio Labs is a wire harness. This is with the Halo something. This is a very flexible, high quality cable and wiring loom. I will be receiving another one of these from a Spanish company that actually reached out and offered to crimp the connectors for the Do-It. The Do-It uses a different set of connectors to the SKR or Spider boards or your smaller boards for everything basically. So this one I would have to recrimp half of the, well, a large amount of the connections. And yeah, they reached out, and hopefully that loom should be here tomorrow, and then day after tomorrow is a bank holiday, but that should be here in time. Right, next up, next layer of parts, next layer of madness that we get digging into. Enough thermal mass, it's not really an issue. Well, I can always point the FLIR at it. and we can see how much deviation we actually get. RetroCare, yes, does supply connectors with it, but I would need to crimp them, and crimping connectors is one of those things that I don't think anyone enjoys, and I don't think it's an enjoyable live stream experience. So if I have to crimp stuff that is more than just like a handful of crimps, I will do that off stream. Or if I have a wiring loom, then no crimping involved, even better for that. Let somebody else do the crimping. So next layer we've got motors, and let me actually show that. So this is the motor that is included with the FormBot kit. It is the right type number, so that's 17HS19-2004S1. That is the correct type number. However, it does not have a manufacturer on it, so there is no branding, no labeling on it. So typically that is an OMC part number, I believe. And these are not OMC branded motors. So I'm just hoping that these will work out. So there's 4 motors for the Z-axis, 1 for XY or A, and then 1 for XY B. So these are 6 motors in total, 6 identical motors in total, and then 1 teeny tiny pancake motor that they also actually did supply a data sheet with. That's this one right here, yeah. This is an Okada. I guess this one is okay. The motor, and I think it's pretty similar to the one that I used in back in the day for the E3D Titan pancake build. This is a very light motor, and according to the spec sheet, there are your specs right there. According to the spec sheet, where is it there? It's a 1 amp motor, 4.5 millihenry, and 0.14 newton meters. So we'll see how well this one works. I'm thinking this should be fine. O-drive is overkill for 3D printing. Yes, it definitely is. Thomas Piccone, these motors are standard 1.8 motors, I believe. Yeah, Nero has already answered that. So for the extrusions that are included, these, so supposedly these are, oh, this one has a dent on the end. So supposedly these are the correct lengths, and I would assume that they are, cut square and all that. This one you can see already has a ding on the end. Right there, that one's already dented. I'm hoping that's not one that I'm gonna have to butt up to make things square. But also, as you can see, these are very glossy. Like this doesn't feel like an anodized finish. There's no texture to it at all. It's just, yeah, it's just a very smooth, glossy surface. So I'm not sure what that is about. Also, the shape of these. And they have very sharp edges, or the radius on the edges right here is not that large compared to the ones that I'm used to. So we're gonna see how well these work. They are just extrusions. So extrusions, in case we need some, I have more. Also included a solid state relay, a gold solid state relay. Of course, gold is the highest quality you can get. And then we have some extruder parts, gears, and of course Bondtech clone wheels with a little roller bearing in there. Then they also included an E3D V6 clone, and this one is actually of the nicer kind. So if you wanted to use that, I guess that is actually one that would work. How does this open up? There you go. So there is the Hotend that they're including. It is an all metal type. It does not have the typical PTFE liner in the heat break. And overall, this looks all right. The nozzle looks a bit pointy, just a bit pointy on the tip, but overall this is usable. Again, I've not tried it, so not sure about that. Let's see. So I think we're done with this layer. There's some bearings. There's the IC socket with a fuse. 2, 3, 4 large pulleys. These are for the Z-axis, I believe. And then on the side here, we've got the DIN rails, which are for electronics mounting in the bottom compartment. These look rather long to me. I might have to cut these. The manual calls for cutting these to size. We'll see. And I think that is it as far as the kit goes. So that's the last layer. I'm going to leave this in here so that stuff doesn't fall out. What else do we have? Yes, of course, we have the Mosquito Magnum. So this is a Hotend that is like not officially supported on the Voron platform yet. I'm hoping I'll have a mounting block and fan shroud until we need it. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's a huge block. It's 66 millimeters long in total. There's an enormous mass of copper on the bottom here. Two heaters. Do I need this on this printer? I don't know. I'm hoping the mechanics are going to be able to push this fast enough. It's a teeny tiny bit overkill, but it's Mosquito's newest Hotend. They're sponsoring the stream, so I'll try to get this on here. I think I'll be cutting off all the wiring here, and I'll be adding some Molex connectors. But yeah, because this stuff is not very flexible and it's not going to go through the drag chains very well. So that's going to be the Hotend for this build. We also have, we have the Do It board. Why the Do It? Okay, Do It reached out. They were like, hey, would you like to use a Do It on this build? And I was like, well, you know, I've got some things planned for this printer that might require a bit more expandability than what these standard SKR or Spider boards now use. And the thing with Do It is, so Do It did just provide the hardware. They're not like technically sponsoring the stream. They are sponsoring with hardware. The thing with Do It is, first of all, it's got insane stepper drivers on it. So this is Trinamic 5160, I believe, which have discrete. So this is 2160s, okay. And you can see, so that's the driver, that's the controller, and right next to them there are 4 little square blocks. Yeah, you can see, yeah, that's mirrored. You can see them next to the connectors on the inside there. That is discrete MOSFETs. So these things can drive 5 or 6 amps. They can probably literally, they can, well, they can definitely fry an EMA 17 if you just push these with full current. But yeah, the reason why I chose Do It for this is because it has expandability. So this is the Do It main board, the Do It 3 6HC. And then you've got the 3HC, which you plug in through CAN FD. So these RJ45 connectors, they connect up to the Do It 6HC main board. And then you get another 3 stepper outputs and thermistors, I believe. Yeah, you get 3 more thermistors, you get more IOs, more inputs, more switches. So that is going to come in real handy for what we're going to do, or what I'm eventually going to do with this printer. So we have 6 stepper motor drives and 3 on top, so 9 total. The Voron needs 4 for the Z motors, 2 for X and Y, and 1 for the extruder. So that is a total of 7 that you need, if my math is correct. So we do have a bit of breathing room with the Do It's. And of course you can add more of the 3HC expansion boards if you choose to. They are including connectors and crimps and a cable that I don't really know what it does, but we'll find that, we'll figure that out. So this is the JST VH series of connectors, and you can see what sort of chonker that is. It looks small, but yeah, this is a 3.96 millimeter pitch connector with the crimps included. So I'll be either the wiring loom that I'm still getting is going to work, or I'm going to have to crimp those connectors onto my wires. Ribbon cable is just single board computer. Okay, thank you for that. I'm not going to be using a single board computer, something like a Raspberry Pi that does like the communication part of the Doit, I think I'll just be sticking to the built-in web server for Doit. That does pretty much what I needed to do. Yeah, and there are, Florian is pointing out, and some others, that there are configs for Voron for RepRap firmware. As far as I'm aware, there is no config for the 2.4 yet directly for the Voron 2.4 on the Doit 3 platform. There is one for the Doit 2 and then the expander for the Doit 2, which is not directly compatible with the Doit 3. So I will need to, I guess porting is the wrong word. I'll just use the configurator that RepRap firmware provides, and I'll use those values from the 2.4 for Doit 2 configuration as a starting point. Trickiest part is probably going to be setting up the combination that the Voron 2 uses between a tool length sensor, which is a pin that the nozzle physically touches down on to compensate for nozzle length changes as you do a nozzle swap, or you could install a different length nozzle or tool head even. So it uses a tool length sensor for that, and then it uses a inductive, I guess that's an inductive probe. It uses a probe to actually level the bed and to compensate for any warp and all that. So getting that to work and do it is probably going to be a bit tricky, because for me the way that Doit does Z offsets and all that, it's already something that is hard to wrap my head around. So I guess we are ready to start assembling stuff. I do have some tools at the ready. So I did have a quick look through the instructions. We're gonna need some thread lock. We're gonna need something to set the Heatside Inserts. We've got the regular pliers, knives. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this guy. I'm probably gonna stick with the torque limited little drill driver that I'm gonna use. A framing square for squaring the frame. So yeah, that's my tool stack over there. We're gonna see how much we need about that. Rushmare 3D, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I have realized that Doit are not including the CAN FD cable, and if you want to use a Doit 6HC mainboard with a 3HC expansion or with a toolboard, you do need to order one of these RJ45 to RJ45 1-to-1 straight pass-through cables, which are rare in Germany actually, especially if you would just want 1 meter and don't want a 3 or 6 meter long line to actually hook up your phone, because typically we hook up phones or landline phones with a TAE to RJ45 plug. So sorry, RJ11. I was thinking like, oh, it's different than no. So this is RJ11. You are right, Domenico. Right, sorry. So RJ11. Typically, Germany uses TAE plugs on one end of these, and yeah, these are a bit harder to find. But I found one, ordered one, with like $5 on top of that, which is crazy for a cable like that. So RJ11. I would have wished it would be an RJ45, because I have heaps of just Ethernet cables, which is RJ45. Well, choices. 6-pin modular, yeah, it's a 6P4C. This one, and that's all I need. All right. Where do we start? We start with the manual. That is probably a good choice. So I do have the official Voron 2.4 assembly manual open on the laptop here, and we will try to follow that. I'm hoping that font is legible, because it is pretty thin fonting, which looks cool, but might be tough to read on stream. Yeah, so I'm going to try to follow this. There will probably be some things that we might deviate from during the build, or some stuff that the kit doesn't do, and that we're going to have to work around. We shall see. So, oh yes, thanks for pointing that out, Florian. Where are they? Yeah, actually, one of the core parts that I forgot is the printed parts. So of course you can print all the parts yourself, but these are parts from the Voron Printed Forward team. There we go, from the Voron Printed Forward team, which is well, I guess a way of the Voron team to organize people who want to print parts on a Voron for future Voron builders. And these are all ABS. They are all black for the main parts and red for the contrast color. These are some amazing parts. There's some really amazing looking and feeling parts. I mean, I could not have done that better myself, even if I tried. So that is, these parts were printed by, I believe this is a Fondwange. That's the little snippet that was included. So Fondwange.com printed these. These were provided by the Voron team. Typically these are parts that you buy, and I think the 2.4 set is about $100 plus shipping, which is, I think, fair for the amount of parts that you get and for the quality of parts that you get. You can print them yourself. It does use up a bit of filament. I think it's probably like 3 kilograms of filament in total if you print everything. Somebody from the Voron team can probably get more specific on how much exactly it is, and it's like 8 or 9 days of printing, I would guess. So, right. Let's jump in with the manual. So they do have a bit of a word of caution at the start. You are about to assemble a robot. Please do not become the first Voron fatality. So yeah, you are dealing with mains power, you are dealing with moving parts. Yeah, so just be careful. STLs, if you want to print these yourself, obviously you're probably going to have a look through the manual. Primary color, accent color, and then quantity, that's all very well organized. There are some different versions for which set of parts you can print. Yeah, print guidelines, wall count recommended 4, 5 top bottom layers, and then 0.2 layer height. The parts that I have don't look like 0.2, they look like they're like 0.1 or something. So no supports required. That is a nice one, because support removal is the worst. And yeah, they are mentioning the Print It Forward program. Discord channel, if you have some stuff that you run into. And of course, everything is up on GitHub. The full CAD model too. Like, I think somebody already mentioned, like, it would be useful to have the CAD model loaded up. Don't have Fusion installed on any of these computers, but it is a Fusion 3D, Fusion 360 design, so you can like actually look at the printer in its full detail once it's fully assembled, or it's going to be fully assembled in a CAD model. That's what I'm trying to say, and you can reference that for how the parts should go together for you. Yeah, so exactly. Adam's pointing out all the printed forward parts are printed to the specs. So 5 layers, 5 top, bottom solid layers, 4 walls. So these are some very solid parts. Final thoughts, take your time. Okay. Printed parts might require some finishing. You're dealing with mains power. Right, explanations of the materials or of the components we're going to be using. The button head, that was the word that I was looking for. Button head, cap screws, socket heads, hex nuts, shims. Shims, as in, that's actually one thing that I noticed. It's shims, not washers. So I guess the shims are made to a more precise spec, or to a different thickness or something. But yeah, the Voron does not use washers. It uses shims throughout. And then you have idlers, pulleys, so just some terminology. Heatside inserts, those are included in the kit as well that I bought. Bearings, grub screws, right. Step 1, the frame. So one thing I actually noticed before I started the stream today was, like, the frame doesn't have anything that holds it square, right? Other than the frame itself and the ends of the profiles butting up against each other, or the ends of the profiles butting up against the sides of the profiles. So the fact that like right here, one of these corners, the fact, or how square your profiles are cut is going to determine how square your frame ends up, because you can't really do much to correct for that. You can check it, but you can't really adjust it. And you can already see the z-axis linear rails on these profiles. So I'll try to build this carefully and as square as possible. This is a brand new table that is hopefully flat. I mean, I did check it. It is pretty flat. This is going to be my build reference. The manual, I think, in a second will call for a glass sheet to build on top of. But yeah, I'll use this table. There are printed parts that keep the necessary parts square once assembled. Okay, that is good to know. So, I'm guessing I'm grabbing some extrusions. So we're gonna use all of them except the 4 short ones. So let's use all these. No granite surface plate. Nah. So I mean, what's the Voron tagline? We build spaceships with gardening tools or something, so that everyone can make their own spaceship. So yeah, that's kind of the motto of the RepRap project originally as well, where it's like, hey, we would like you to be able to build these printers with common tools, so that everyone can build them. So that's the 4 shorter ones. Rockets with garden shed tools. Okay, close enough. That's our, there you go, there's a frame. That was easy enough. Headphone users, yeah, sorry. So basically we have long ones and we have short ones. So the long ones have the end machining to them, where there's holes through 2 sides, which is where you can fit that button head screw. Goes in the bottom slot, and then you reach through with a hex key and you tighten that screw that sticks in the end of these profiles. Pretty common way of building these frames. Actually, it's all explained in the manual. Mic died? Hopefully not. So screws is also what we're gonna need. So this is going to be fun because there's also magnets included, and I think this is the pin that we need for the tool length sensor. I'm going to keep that safe in the box. But yeah, screws, lots of them. So if we run out of screws at one point, I do have most of these in my assortment of fasteners as well. M5 1mm spacer. Oh, there are brass spacers that they're including. That's interesting. M3 washers. Oh, these smell like oil. M3 by 20, M5 by 30. I might need to grab some little plastic container. 3 by 8. This is going to be an oily mess. 5 by 10. Hammer nuts. Okay, hammer nuts, T-nuts, more T-nuts. I am glad to see that these are mostly T-nuts. These are the ones that you kind of slide into the profile. I much prefer these over the hammer nuts, but I guess some just have to be the hammer nut for functionality. 3 by 8, 5 by 10, 5 by 30, 3 by 20. Spacers, 3 by 30. Soaked in oil. 5 by 16. 5 by 40, 3 by 40, 4 by 6, 3 by 18. So there's a couple that are 18 and most of them are 8 or 20. M5 hex nuts. So many different screws. These Heatside inserts we will need in a second. By the way, this is the type of Heatside insert that they're including. That hopefully can come into focus. So yeah, it's the type that has like the double helix herringbone style to them. These aren't, as far as I'm aware, these aren't that bad. M3 nuts, 3 by 12, M3 washer, and that should be it. There are some self-tapping screws, which is for the electronics mounts, I believe. Okay. Yeah. Paper towels. We will probably need a couple. Hammer nuts are for the panel clips. Okay. Only for the panel attachments. Alright. Don't have the panel, so I should be good. So basically this is corners that we're going to assemble. Actually, so use a low strength thread lock compound here. I don't think thread lock works all that well on oiled up screws, so I'm hoping we're going to be fine still. We do have a medium strength. What's up with that focus? I think it focused on the profiles. Medium strength, so it's supposed to be a low strength, but with the oil and all, it should be good. And this is the blue stuff is one that you can still remove unless it's like an M3 screw. M3 you're gonna strip. Like you're just gonna strip the head, but everything else blue usually is fine. So we have one of these, and then we're basically building corners. So we do one like that, and then one like that, and that should be one corner assembled. So M5 by 16 button head cap screw. Thread locker is not really needed. Wait, are you already telling me to not follow the manual? that's early. We've not even put one single screw in. And I'm already told to not follow the manual. That is a first. So I think I'll just put some thread lock on these because it's, you know, it's no big deal. It's not a big job to add thread locker to these. And if it's, I mean, it's just cheap insurance, right? That's way too much. There we go. So basically you just slide these in like so. And then you grab a hex key of some sort, or you grab a power tool. Hoping that is not too noisy. There you go. And you set it to an appropriate torque. Yeah, that feels about right. And you screw that sucker down. I'm going to do that on the edge of the table so that I can lay these flat and make sure they are. That's not, that perspective is not helpful. I'm going to lay it down flat on the edge of the table, just so that we have a flat reference. And this thick screw. That goes in. And we're tight. Yeah, that is a good joint. Thanks for the €5, Aaron. Much appreciated. Right. Yeah, let's see how long I can keep building today. We've already spent 40 minutes on just explaining stuff. But I'm hoping we're going to see progress as we move on. So I'm hoping we're going to see continuous progress from now on. That is, I don't know what I was expecting, but this is surprisingly light. All right, so there's one. Let's see, so we build 2 corners, okay. We build 2 of these corners and then we add...
behind me waiting on all the wiring and that. Been like that for 3 weeks now. Don't have the time and patience right now.
Nero's 250 is over 40 pounds in total. Yeah, I guess the frame is relatively... frame, I guess, is relatively light. Thank you for the 5, Unseal. Hoping you're going to have success with that build. Waiting on all the wiring and all that. Yeah, wiring is the worst. Because it's like, hey, the printer should be done. The printer feels like it should be done, but you have to do that annoying job of wiring.
After getting into 3D printing very recently, I have fallen in love with it. The 0.1 parts are on the way, and I will be building...
So what do you mean torque to spec? I mean, it's... If it's tight, it's torque to spec, I guess. I'm not going to use a torque wrench on these. V0.1 parts on the way, and we'll be building a 2.4 as well. It's like everyone's building Vorons. Like, where did you guys get the inspiration to build a Voron in the first place? Was it really Stefan that started it all? Nope. Okay. 2 corners done. And these are... Ooh, look at that. Unfortunately, the top camera isn't the best, but if you look at that, these are surprisingly... Either both not square, but by the same amount, but these are surprisingly equal. Stefan mentioned in the melt zone. Oh well, yeah, I guess I got Stefan to build one in the first place. It's like a virus spreading. Everyone's doing Vorons now. The good thing with these 3D printers is you can just print more. You can, that's literally the idea behind RepRap is you build one printer and, well, that one printer can now make more. Oh yeah, Speedboat Challenge 2 as well. Yeah, that's one thing that's obviously the Voron is kind of a prime choice for. So I guess step now is just we have 2 corners, we have 2 independent corners, and we add a center, or we add 2 center verticals to these. Massive growth around when the lockdown started. Yeah, that's also something I saw on the YouTube channel actually. A lot of people were just looking at 3D printing and looking at how to get into it. So yeah. The choice is there. Hey, do I want to build something myself and use that as an educational experience, or do I just buy a ready-made machine, which of course is also valid. It's a lot more convenient, but you might not learn as much. So there's one, there's another. So how do I square this one up now? Hints in the manual. Building square. I'm guessing I can lay this down onto one side and at least build it square that way. So hold on, if I do this first and I do that. and then I tighten it like this, it should at least be, I mean, it's going to pull itself tight anyways, but in the one direction we have the table, well, in this direction we have the table, and in the other it should be the profile. This is going to be a brain teaser to assemble all of these without getting them mixed up, like which part goes in with the others how. Ariel, good to have you on live stream. It's, yeah, there's always a first for everyone. Live streams do have a different vibe to everything else that I do. Like regular videos and live streams are so incredibly different, but I mean, for me, doing live streams is extremely exhausting. Just because, well, there's no edit. There's 1,000 people, I don't know how many people are watching, but there's 1,000 people watching, probably. And however you mess up will be on the internet for, well, I can delete it, but people are there to see it right then and there. And I guess a lot of you are also expecting to be entertained in some way. And I'm just hoping I can deliver on that. So now we have the uprights in there. So I'm torquing this all with the clutch on this Ryobi driver, set to 8, which like feels right. You could of course torque this with a torque wrench, and I do have a micro torque wrench for this sort of stuff, but I mean, you can go overkill and you can go like crazy overkill. There is no point in torquing down these frame bolts. There might be a point in torquing down some other parts on this build, but for this, it's not it. Thanks for the 2, Kyle. How long did it take to order and receive it all? So this is, there are a couple parts that the first one is receiving just the kit. It's now it looks positively huge. The first one is receiving just the kit itself from China, and these kits are only shipped through DHL Express. So this was here within 10 days, I would say. But then, of course, if you're still adding on to that, and if you're adding like little upgrades here and there, that's going to take a while to source and for all of that to arrive. So if you're completely self-sourcing, and if you're ordering from China, it might be, 6 to 8 weeks that you can expect to have most of the parts. At least for where I live, shipping to Germany with imports and all that can be fussy at times, and I think it's today actually, or next month or sometime, new imports rules are going to come, or going to go into effect. So importing stuff from China is going to get more involved and more expensive. So if you source from China, that might be something to consider, that yes, this stuff is going to be probably more expensive and more lengthy from now on, because the DHL can do it within 2 days, but it's, clearing imports, paying duties, all that can add up. 3 months, Neo is saying, yeah, that sounds about realistic, especially if you want, like if you're collecting parts and you're realizing, oh, I still need this bit, I still need that bit, I need that. No power tools? Well, that's going to be one bit of the manual I will happily ignore. To be honest, I would rather use a drill driver with a clutch just to give me some sort of repeatable torque, because I do not trust my hands on that. And so far I've built pretty much every 3D printer with one of these, not this exact one. My Bosch tools are giving up, but with a driver like this, and it's been fine. So there is that, and I guess I'll just work my way around with these. This looks like a you know, one of those cubes from Satisfactory or something that has, what do they call, like versatile frames or something? Or reinforced frames. It's exactly that. I think that entire game was just about, hey, we're going to make the most complex 3D printer building simulation, because playing that feels a lot like ordering stuff for a 3D printer. Oh, you need that, and then you need that part to go into that, and yeah. Modular frames, right. Okay, that goes there. The good thing is with these holes pre-drilled, it's pretty hard to assemble it wrong. Like if you have if you're using like connector blocks and, just checking that I'm not missing anything. If you have connector blocks and you're using those little angle brackets and stuff, you can position those however you want. And for example, misalign the ends. So for example, this is all ends, 4 ends in the corner. You could build this completely differently. I'm guessing there is a crossover between people building 3D printers and people playing Satisfactory. I've played that game co-op for probably 100 hours now, or I think that the Steam counter is past 100 hours. But I mean, we've got full-blown factory and all. Not touched nuclear power yet, but the problem is the save now won't load. It will like repeatedly, reliably crash 5 minutes after you loaded. So at that point we were just like, well, this was fun, but you can't play like that. Well. Hoping they're gonna fix that. Deharma. Kit or source the parts individually. I went the easy way out and I went with a kit plus a couple upgrade parts. You can jump back in this stream and have a look at all the explanations of the parts that I'm using here. So, interestingly, this corner right here, so I tightened this corner up, and this corner here is in place and maybe a millimeter off. So that tells me this side here and all these other sides here either have areas that cancel each other out, or these are all cut pretty well. And I'm starting to think it's the these are cut pretty well version. So these are cut square is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Fermi Labs was recommended to me as the high quality source for parts. The thing is just when I tried to order these, pretty much everything was out of stock. I would have used Fermio probably, but yeah, a lot of stuff was not in stock. And I had already ordered the Formbot kit when I started looking into them. But yeah, they are a bit more expensive than buying the kit, but you're gonna get possibly much better quality parts than what's included in this kit. If you have a hand square, well, I have this. It was called for a construction square. I know this thing is square-ish, and this looks very square to me. So if you go over here, yeah, this thing is like 30 years old, but a bit out of whack. So this top side is coming in a bit, but not by much. Yeah, this is good. This is square. This is, so the thing with 3D printing is always you're gonna have to accept good enough at some point. So the frame, yeah, it's gonna be mostly square. It's gonna be square up to, I don't know, ooh. That one might not be tapped far enough. it's going to be squared down to, I don't know, 0.1 degrees or something. But the thing is also, the 3D printing process itself has tolerances and deviations and like inaccuracies that it just naturally brings along with it. So yeah, building a frame super square for a process that is not super duper precise, I'm not sure how much sense that would make. Did the banged up extrusion end up somewhere safe? It ended up somewhere. What model is my soldering iron? I will get to that in a second. Yep, that is not, ooh. That is not tapped far enough. So you can hopefully see, yeah, that is still wobbling around. So I'm gonna have to tap that with, can I, like, there we go. I'm gonna have to re-tap that. Hopefully not bend the frame in the process. So this side, I will grab a machine tap real quick. Be right back. So again, this is the sort of stuff that you probably should expect with a kit like this, where it's not all super high quality components. You might have to do reworks or workarounds like these every now and then. I'm just gonna leave this on this view for a second. I'll be right there. That's fine, right? Okay. We dominate the stream now. I'm just going to use the impact gun to piss people off. Somebody was asking about the soldering station. It's an A10 AT, so letters A, letter T, 80D, and it's not one that I would recommend. It's rather low power. And yeah, the soldering iron is pretty weak, so pretty easy to break. Am I even tapping the right side? Yes, I am. No Vela, no, I bought this during my student years and I could not afford a Vela. I might buy one at some point, or a what's the proper brand that A10 is cloning. It's got the same styling and everything, but impact to thread. Yes, impact to thread. Like I said, just to annoy some people. Too many different brands of cordless tools. Well, Makita doesn't make the small guy, unfortunately, so I do have the Ryobi here. I could also grab some more Bosch, but that is not my preferred tool anymore, unfortunately. Pencil solder irons. Yeah, those TS100s. I think Gino got one recently. Are those usable for like doing bigger stuff? Like soldering, I don't know, 1.5mm square cable to a pad on a PCB or something? Do those work for that? Because my fear is always that those wouldn't have enough thermal mass in the tip and all, and not enough heating power to supply enough heat to heat up larger bits. Might be great for electronics, but sometimes I need to solder bigger stuff as well. They're only like 30 to 40 watts. Yeah, so that soldering station has 80 in the names. In the name, it's got a 60 watt transformer in it. So it's not that different, I guess. There's our modular frame. Ooh, giving you a little perspective illusion there. And yeah, this seems square to me. Either not rigid enough to actually bounce around, but yeah, I'm gonna call this square. I know it's sideways, but it's square like that as well. So I think we're good in that regard. Probably oh yeah, I'm already scratching up the table. Oh well, it's solid oak. I can sand it down. That's the good thing about that. Measure corner to corner diagonally. Can I use that now? Measure corner to corner. What should we read if we go corner to corner? So I'm going to burn 10 here. So I'm going to go there. So that's 90. Corner to corner, 94.5, pretty much. Oh yeah, should be the same. Okay, that makes sense. 94.5, and we've got 94.5. Pretty much spot on. Maybe like 0.2 millimeters off. That is what I'm gonna call good enough. Do we still need the frame? Are we done with the frame? No, of course we're not done with the frame. So I guess I now get to choose a top and a bottom. I guess this works. We will use an M5 by 16 and an M5 by 10 and a shim. As well as, I assume, some sort of T-nut? Maybe? Is this not going to get screwed down? Thinking I'll use a T-nut with that. Measure 0.2 with a thing. Yeah, you know, it was spot on, but I could see it was just maybe a little off. A 0.2 is like what I at the very best would be able to tell. So yeah, manual doesn't include T-nuts. Okay, so we will add T-nuts here. I'm guessing it's just assuming you're gonna need T-nuts there. M5. So we also need the corner brackets. These. So these are aluminum. Yeah, aluminum. These look like plastic with the. I'm not sure if this is paint or anodization. I think it's anodized. So, insert fasteners before you start. It makes attaching the bed extrusions to the frame easier. Don't tighten these down too hard at this stage. So these will get adjusted when the bed first heats up, I was told. Welcome to the Voron Club. Yeah, it seems like everyone's building them. One T-nut for each M5 by 10. So we're gonna need a couple. Maybe another paper towel. M5 by 10 button head. So probably the first real review. Well, technically, live streams aren't reviews. It's just a hangout format if you're into watching other people build 3D printers, or if you're building the same printer at the same time. That might be something that could be interesting, just as, you know, an opportunity to build the printer with someone. like a cult and a club. Well, isn't it like... Nah. Is there a difference in how you can join a cult or a club? What is my older iron? I don't have an older iron. As in soldering iron. Single digit serial number V2. Do these printers have serial numbers? Do I get to like etch a serial number somewhere on this frame once I'm done? Does that get assigned to you by the Voron team? That'll be something. So these screws get a shim, and these shims are compared to washers. These are thick boys. Like that is a proper amount of shimmage. Let me see how I can insert these without colliding into each other. So yeah, that's still gonna fit. That is still gonna work if you insert. Well, I guess you can do that too. So yeah, because the M5x16 does not have the shim, that one sits closer in the bracket, and then you can still drop this one in. That's gonna work. So that's these two, I assume. Yeah, because they're obviously that exact same length. And we've got the same procedure as every year. Phone, am I missing something? Nah. Here, so these are going to go on the bottom of the frame like that. They're going to support the bed directly. And that's something that I was wondering about, is like, okay, so you have your frame, which is intended to be cold or to stay cold, and then you rigidly mount your bed plate on top of that, I guess like so. This is going to expand and contract. So the answer was, well, that is an 8mm slab of aluminum. These are some relatively thin rails. We're hoping that these rails are going to give first. So there is going to be a bit of tension in these. But yeah, with a bed that thick, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Somebody wants to ask, which kit did you buy? The link lists like 20 different ones. Yeah, they're all the same kit. Formbot is listing like 20 different kits on their website or on the AliExpress store. They're all the same. I think some might have shipping included, some might not, but they are physically, as far as I can tell, the exact same thing. Let me see. So I'm gonna tighten the end caps on these bed rails totally, and then I'm gonna leave the shorter screws that attach it to the rest of the frame. I'm gonna leave those loose. There we go. Amount of 3 screws. Okay. Yeah, I guess 4 screws would be overkill, but 3 is still a potential to warp. How much was this Voron? Well, I'm probably using parts that are worth 1,500, maybe. So that is the kit plus a bunch of upgrades. The kit was a bit over €1,000 to buy and to import. It's like $899, I think, for the $899 for the 300mm version. And then, of course, you have $110 worth of shipping. You have imports, which is another like $200 at least for me. So you have all of that on top of the cost of your pure kit. If you decide to buy a kit, but there are other shops that Is there an orientation? I don't think so. There are shops that will sell you most of these parts locally. How did I insert these last? Because this is going to be pretty finicky. If I try to get these nuts in here, I think something like that should work. Yeah, there we go. So these T-nuts, they have like a roundish shape on the bottom and a little spring-loaded pin. Right there, you can see that. That is spring-loaded. That kind of keeps it in place, but you have to kind of swivel them in. There you go. So that is on its side. You basically grab it, you swivel it, and until it locks into the profile like that, it's still loose, but now it's mostly fixed. Like you can still slide it around, but it's not going to fall out by itself. I really like this. Yeah, Knipex pliers do work pretty well for that, though I don't think it's the way that you're supposed to install these. Let's do it again with the fat part towards the outside. Self-source is around $1,500 US, yeah. That sounds about right. So it's for a DIY printer, it's a pretty expensive build, but it's using some pretty high-end parts and quite a few of them. So yeah, it's not a cheap printer. It's not an Ender 3. Like if you're expecting an Ender 3 price-wise, you will be disappointed. I'm guessing you could use shims here. Just thinking. Could probably, well, shims, washers for these. I guess this isn't really dimensionally critical. And yeah, the good thing with these T-nuts is you can put the screw in, and as long as you don't tighten it down, you can still slide them around and adjust the adjust the exact positioning of them. And then the front. Yeah, as long as you don't do that. So many things to pull focus on. Wow. So, is there an alignment that we have to do? Because right now, these are free to slide around left and right. Those float for now because your bed location is based off of where your XY max ends up being and also the Z and stuff. Okay. So these are basically just left to float for now. What is that noise that I'm hearing? I'm hoping my mic didn't die. No. Still seems to work. Thomas Fisher is asking, hey, you're going to build this thing totally today? No. No, I wish I could. I wish I could, but it's a bit too much of a build to do in one sitting. So I'm expecting 25 to 30 hours of build time for this whole thing. So it will be a bunch of streams until this thing is done and printing. Okay, next up, Z rails. Rail spacing, 3mm spacing off of the bottom of the extrusions. Okay. Leaves room for the installation of belt covers later in the build. And I'm guessing it doesn't, like this shouldn't be a critical dimension. You should be able to space this a bit further up, I'm thinking. You're not going to drive your hot end like right down into the bed. So, okay. M3x8, no washers, no nothing, just with T-nuts. So I'm going to tighten down this this bed subassembly just on the lowest torque for now, just so it's not flopping around. And we can open this up later again. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So you will go on your side. And also we need some rails. So these are apparently all identical rails, MGN 9 style. If I built these faster than Nero, well, no way. Absolutely no way. Oh, these are completely vacuum sealed. And these are also going to be very oily. That is just the norm for these. There you go, yeah, try not, ooh. That's a bad sign that these don't slide down by themselves. Typically these are very easy to slide around. Yeah. Yeah. So quick sound check on these rails. That's not too bad. These don't sound bad. Of course, if you this is no load. That's with a torque applied to them. It's not too bad. And then with a linear force, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I have definitely felt worse rails. These, again, they do not have any markings on them. Oh, they do have some scratch marks in the back, which I guess is some sort of internal factory mark. There you can kind of see it shimmer. There's 2 marks on these. Not sure what that's about. Also, if you're using these, make sure you keep these end stops in where you put a zip tie through one of the screw holes or something, because if this block slides off, you're going to lose some balls, some bearing balls, and that slide or that carriage is going to be toast pretty much. You have to remove the oil first. It's an anti-corrosion and not for greasing. Yep. It does feel very oily. It's the shipping oil that they use in general. I can oil these later on. They pair up carriage to rail. Oh, was that a? No, that was not a dent. So basically, unboxing more of these. So we need 4 for each, 1 for each Z-axis corner. Grease, 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 grease. Hiwin lubrication manual. Well, these aren't Hiwin, they're Hewin, so they probably do something differently there. The thing with the Z-axis is not going to see a lot of motion. Like, sure, you can use these rails for a Z-axis as well, and it's going to be perfect for that, but this is a very low low usage axis on the printer. Nero's suggesting getting all of these out and using the 4 worst ones for the Z-axis. That is actually a good point. And I will try and do that. So I guess you guys can just watch me degrease my linear rails for a bit. So yeah, these are all MGN 9, all the same size, the same length. I probably shouldn't cut in the bearing grooves, but these should be hardened, so cut knife shouldn't do much there. 4 worst for Z, 2 best for X. Though I was told only to use 1 for X, so I do have a spare, just in case. When am I going to build a hypercube or Hevort or a rat rig V something? At some point. We'll see how well this build goes. There's a bit of grime on this rail, on this one specific one. Yeah, they are MGN9. These are all MGN9 rails. Yeah, I kind of want to work my way through the Vorons. If this one works out well, if this one ends up being a printer that works well and a stream that you guys enjoy, I might just go, you know, Voron 1, Voron 0, Voron Switchwire, Voron. I don't know. Are there others? There are others, I think. Printer builds are always, I guess, fun. It's a weird way to have fun. But they are fun. Legacy, yeah. just build the Voron 2.0 and then the 2.1 and then the 2.2 and just work my way through that. Single rail afterburn doing fine. Nice. Yeah, Stefan already mentioned on I don't know if it's on the newest episode of the podcast, of the Meltzone podcast. I think it's on there, but he did mention like he wants to build a V2, but like space. Oh, this one feels okay, but space. This is a commanding printer. I mean, this is quite a big frame. I'm thinking it's not gonna get any bigger than this, but oh, I'm guessing these are tolerances that they've written on the back. It's not gonna get any bigger than this, but it's, to be honest. To be totally honest, I don't think this takes up more space than something like a Prusa. Because yes, this is a solid box in the end. This is something that you're not going to reach through. But if you think about how far the bed on a bed slinger printer extends, I think that is actually more in depth. That actually takes up more depth than a printer like this. And on the sides with all the stuff dangling out, I don't think this is that much. This is using up that much more space, to be honest. This one's unmarked. That one has scribbles on it. There are some markings on the back of these, which I cannot decipher. It looks like some of these are single-digit numbers, some of these are two-digit numbers, but the numbers don't make any sense. So let's see. Oh. I'm gonna say that first one is probably on the rougher side. This one is also pretty rough. Yep, that one as well. These three on the left are pretty good. And these two are about equal. So this is my pool for the Z-axis. So I'm going to kick this one out. So we have 4 of the better, worse ones that go on the Z-axis. And then we have 3 of the better ones that go onto X and the 2 sides for the Y-axis. There you go. So these we need, and these go into storage for now. Hey, Stefan's here. So Stefan, when are you going to build that 2.4? We just talked about you. How you are going to build a 2.4 eventually, right? Right? All right, we need a couple of screws. So every other hole, the thing is, so that the manual shows a lot less screw holes than these rails actually have. How many should I drop in here? Because the manual's like, well, there's your spacing. There's my spacing. Stefan's going to need a separate printer space. Yeah. Manual is artistic. Okay. Okay. So I'm guessing I'm sticking to what's actually on these rails. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fasteners totally then. With these. Manual is drawn for the 250 CAD. Oh yeah, and the 300 rails are longer. That makes sense. So we've got 10 for each rail. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. Let's get these in. I'm gonna grab a hex key for this. Yeah, there you go. This is gonna be fun. Just a bunch of these T-nuts to drop in. Oh yeah, if you just press them on one side, that works. That works pretty well.
Thanks for everything you did, Tom. You're completely responsible for getting me into 3D printing.
Benjamin, thank you for that, and I'm sorry for dragging you into this. Sorry for sucking you into this a time intense hobby or job. I mean, some people are making this their job, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, thanks for the tip, and thanks for being part of the community. Somebody was asking about the lens. Yulin was asking about the lens. So that camera that I've got on there is a Sony a7S III with these. I counted 10 and just put them in one pile. Sony a7S III with the Sigma 24-70 f2.8. Great lens, great camera combo. Heckin' expensive in Germany. Way overkill for everything, but I mean, it's fun. It's fun doing 4K 60 videos, even though the stream is in 1080 60 because YouTube doesn't let you stream any higher than that. M3 by 80. Lube your rails. Yeah, maybe. I do have some uni lube here, but I don't think that would be the preferred choice for that. Do not have. There's my hex keys. So these will not get tightened down all the way. Actually, I probably should space these out first. And I guess I should also align these to the bottom corner before I start everything, because that might be pretty hard to align later on. And they want an exactly 3mm space, so I'm going to use a 3mm screw, the shaft of a 3mm screw for spacing here. That's going to be 2.9 something, I know, but that goes there, that goes there. What frame profiles do I have? So these are the frames that came with the FormBot kit, and they are 6mm Newt no-name profiles. That's gonna bother me. That is really gonna bother me. Can you guys see that? I'm not gonna smash my laptop screen. That T-nut up there is in backwards. It's sticking out. I'm gonna have to take that out. 9 screws instead of 10. Oh yeah, well that makes sense. Then I can just take this one out. Cool. That makes it easy. But I'm guessing I should then have one in the in the top hole and not in the bottom, because the bottom is rarely going to see that much action. So we'll need to flip one. There we go. So one up they go. Actually, I guess the smartest way would be to leave one out in the middle, because there the rail is supporting itself more on both sides. So I'm going to leave a space there. I'm going to do 4 on top and 5 on the bottom. And that's probably going to be pretty unconventional, but thinking that checks out the best.
Would love to see more Voron streams. Plus once you build one Voron you'll be hooked and automatically need to build the rest of them. Winking face.
Oh no. What did I get myself into? Thanks for the 5 oak, man. That seems to be a pretty common theme. That when you start building one Voron, you want the next one. And I've already mentioned that. I might start building more of these if this one works out. Oh, I did. That was not a smart move. Putting these too far down. That was not a smart move.
Because the Voron needs proper funding and Molex/PTFE wiring is not cheap. Enjoy the build.
Can't get in there. I can push these up. Can slide the profile up, but not down. Oh, that works. Okay, I can still slide it up, but okay, I should have just taken the screw out. Anyways, there's that. Molex PTFE wiring is not cheap. Enjoy the build. Thank you for that. Thank you for the 10. I do have. Hold on, I need to find my nuts here. There we go. I do have the PTFE wiring, the Hiluflon wiring from Fermiolabs. I will get a different wiring loom hopefully tomorrow-ish with proper connectors for the Duet 3. And yeah, this was all probably 1,500 bucks so far. But it's all right. These streams do have FEP nearly the same. Yeah. These streams do have a sponsor, so we're good. We're good. Thank you. Okay, so part alignment. Yes, use print alignment tool. That was what I was.
Do a build stream of the Brucer serial number 6,783,342 creation idea machine.
I have no idea what that message is supposed to be, but thanks for the 5, I guess. Creation idea machine? What? 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 Somebody knows what that was about. This build is sponsored by Slice Engineering and the Mosquito Magnum Plus. If you start the stream from the start, you will see that entire sponsor disclosure, sponsor showcase, all that is at the start of the video. Duet 3D did provide parts. They're not technically sponsoring the build. Who else was providing parts? Yeah, the Voron PIF team was providing parts as well. And hopefully, yeah, that wiring loom is going to come my way in a second as well, or in a day or so. You printed everything in black. I did not print everything in black. These prints are, again, they are from the Voron PIF team.
Super interested in building a Voron myself. Maybe a V0 to start. Smiley face.
Yeah, these prints are from the Voron PIF team, which is I guess a way of the Voron team to organize people who have Vorons and who want to print parts for others. And yeah, the red and black, well, red accent, black main parts, that is the standard Voron color scheme, at least for 2.4, I think. And yeah, that's what I went with. There's 2 rail alignment pieces. Oh, good thing. Good thing to find out. Oh yeah, there is another one. I was going to keep sliding it down along the rail while tightening it. I think that should work as well. So we have another one. This is actually a pretty simple, pretty genius part. Just sits on there. So I guess you just leave these on and then you tighten everything. Yeah. That's going to work. What dimensional accuracy is required for the heated or for the printed parts? They need to be pretty good as far as I'm aware. Which is why most of these are printed on previous Vorons. And there is the first rail attached to the frame. Just 3 more. But hopefully those 3 should go faster. So I'm going to put the end stop, the bump stop back in so that I don't accidentally, crash this carriage off of the rail. Don't want to do that. And I'm hoping I put that into the correct side. Whew! Yes. Okay, I put that into the correct side. Thankfully, I could have put this in like on the other side, and that would have been. I guess it would have still worked maybe, but it would have been wrong. So that is the correct side. The side that is basically in line with the bed rails. What else? Okay, so that's in. Now it's just 3 more rails for this entire thing. But hopefully that should go faster. So I did 5 on the bottom and then 4 in the top. And Mac Robeson, thanks for the 2. Just finished the Voron 2.4. Why watching another Voron build? I thought you just had like 30 hours of Voron building. That's going in pretty well. Yeah, apparently once you build one, that's it. You just lost. You're gonna build more and more and more until your space is used up. So yeah, one note on the printed parts. All these parts are printed. Well, all these parts, as you see, literally not a single printed part. But all the printed parts on the Voron are spec'd to be printed in ABS. I guess ASA would work just as well. But since this is, I guess, technically an enclosed printer or one that could be enclosed, and yeah, you've got stuff like motor heat to deal with, printing them in a particularly heat-resistant material is probably a very smart move. Hold on, what am I doing here? There. And then we do that. We had 4 up top, yeah. So yeah, these parts are all, the parts from the PIF team are all printed in ABS, as are the red accent pieces. So that should allow me to just drop it in. So we have all the T-nuts aligned. I'm going to keep the screw at the bottom here just to give me an, that 3mm offset. And supposedly now you drop on the alignment tool, one in the top, one in the bottom, and we should be able to just plop screws in and tighten those down. TPU Voron when. Whatever works for you, but I'm guessing these parts do need a bit of rigidity maybe. You could not print the parts with a Prusa. So the way I print ABS parts is with a Prusa in a box. So Prusa in a OSB wood box, just to close it off, and that gives me enough of an ambient temperature rise for the parts to come out really strong, not crack during printing, and it also keeps the smell contained just a bit. So yeah, if you have a printer, if you have a printer that uses PLA printed parts, maybe don't do that because you're gonna melt your parts. But if you have a printer that at least uses PETG parts, you can just put it in. It doesn't even have to be a wood box. It can just be, an Amazon shipping box or something. As long as you're like eliminating any and all drafts that might arise and might happen around the printer. So yeah, and I found that basically any bit of ambient temperature rise that you can get helps a lot. Where my printers live in the basement here is it's pretty cold, especially in winter. We have like 15 degrees ambient. In summer it's like 18 maybe, and that is not the best. It's perfect for PLA. Like PLA prints love that, but for ABS you are going to have immense warping issues. So yeah, putting a printer in the box is definitely mandatory in that case. An enclosed Voron V2 should be around 50 degrees Celsius when enclosed and at ABS temperatures. Yeah, that's the thing. As soon as you use a box or some other type of enclosure, just the heat from the bed, mostly the heat from the bed, that already heats up your air inside the printer to a point where it's going to be suitable for ABS, or it's going to at least be better for ABS. So the Voron technically is an enclosed printer. It doesn't have any, unlike the Ultimaker 3, which has that Bowden tube sticking out that kind of makes it hard to enclose. And the Voron 2.4 should be pretty much all enclosed. Does it have a top panel? I don't think it has a top panel, right? But it wouldn't be impossible to use a top panel. So I guess technically it is enclosed, and with all ABS parts, you shouldn't have any issues with your parts warping. How smooth are the rails? So let's give it a sound test on the frame itself. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hey, and apparently Max is also here. Why am I not seeing the mod symbol? Okay, I'm probably missing something in chat right now. But yeah, 2 rails on. Yeah, with the oil removed, they do slide around a bit better. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And the one in the back as well. Good enough for me. 2 more. 5 in the bottom, 4 at the top. Yeah. Doesn't really matter, but if I'm gonna build one of these, might as well at least space out things equally. Where's that screw? There's that screw. Just using that screw as a spacer because it is roughly 3 millimeters. Yeah, these are actually pretty easy to push in. I thought I'd need like a tool or something to use and to lever them in, but turns out you can actually just push down on them with your bare fingers like that, and they pop in place. So that's pretty good. That's one of the reasons why I love these T-nuts. Just so much better than hammer nuts. If you use the hammer nuts, I mean, you can do that too, but basically you need to attach them to the rails or whatever you're mounting to the profile first, and you have all your nuts sticking out. And then when you tighten it down, you're hoping that they're going to spin the way they intended to, and not just not spin and just back up against your part. T-nuts are, I'm not going to say the worst, but they're not great. I don't enjoy using them, and I try to avoid them whenever possible. And the thing is also with these hammer nuts, you can drop them in and remove them whenever you need to. You don't have to, like with the cheaper stamped type, and I think they're flow drill or something. With that type, you do have to slide it into the ends of the extrusions before you put anything on and before you close off the end. But with these, you can add and remove them at any time. Where did I put my hex key? There it is. So alignment tools. One on here. These alignment tools feel fairly loose for knowing how sensitive these rails are to misalignment. And you can see that is slightly rocking around still. But I'm guessing because it's still using printed parts, there is going to be some elasticity in the entirety of the assembly. So I'm thinking that should be good enough. Mika is asking, how expensive was the kit? The kit, so this is the 300mm kit that I got from FormBot, is $899 for that size. It's $839 for the 250, and I think like $939 for the 350. But that is plus shipping. They only ship it with DHL Express, which is another $130-ish. And then plus imports, which is just VAT and import duties, if that's applicable to your country. In Germany, this was like another $200 for me. So the kit in total, pretty much exactly 1,000 euros. Pretty much exactly, with dollar to euro conversions, etc. It worked out to be that pretty much exactly. Ooh, SP4N. Where did you buy that? I'm missing a screw still. Did they really send it via DHL Express? I think they actually did send it via DHL Express. Because yeah, I remember doing the customs through DHL Express's website. Because obviously, you know, when you order these sort of things, they're not declared properly, so you have to do the tax declaration basically again from your side. So, yeah. Mark Ferris, I'm building a 300. I thought like, well, this is going to be a relatively large printer. I don't want to like build the absolutely largest one for, well, both for space and for rigidity. Because, you know, the larger you build your printer, and if you don't scale up your components as well, you are going to lose rigidity, because just your levers are going to be longer. So this is the 350. You could also build it in 250 or 350. But for me, I was like, well, 350 is probably a good size. It's probably a sweet spot size, more or less. Probably if you want to do the absolutely fastest print speed, if you want to, do the speedboat race, building a 250 is the smarter choice. I don't know if you can build, you can probably build these even smaller and go with 200 or something. But yeah, I don't want to like build this for the memes and just build a printer that I'm going to spend 30 hours on the build itself, plus, you know, all the prep work, etc., and then just be able to print a fast bench. I want this to actually be practical. And also, I do have something planned for this that is going to require the space. So, a 250 would probably not have been large enough. Right, but parts-wise, they're pretty similar. So longer belts, longer linear rails, longer extrusions, different skirts. So you can close off like your electronics compartment in the bottom with a skirt. And obviously, if that distance is longer, you would use longer longer skirt parts. But other than that, it is really just a scaling thing where you use longer components, as far as I'm aware. Scale of 4. Someone scaled a 2.4 down to 150. Okay. I'm guessing that thing can print pretty quickly then. Yeah, the good thing is with the Core XY setup, you're not adding that much extra weight by scaling up. Yes, your X gantry is going to get heavier. It's more weight that's going to need to be moved around, but compare that to a bed slinger system or bed slinger setup, you can't really scale that past 300 really, because your bed starts getting so heavy and just so well. You need for a larger bed, you're going to need, for a larger moving bed, you're going to need larger belts, just to reduce the amount of ringing you get, and to stiffen up that drive system. You're going to need stronger motors. You're going to need possibly a frame that can absorb all that the weight slinging around, and can provide rigidity for that. And you will also, with a bed slinger build, you're also going to need a heaps more space, because you don't just need, with this build, with a 2.4, the bed is completely static and just the tool head moves around that. But with a bed slinger, you need twice the depth of your usable bed size. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Prusa is 250 wide and just 220 deep, and not 250 deep and 220 wide, because, well, that would basically add another 5 or 10 centimeters in needed space in depth. Yeah, Voron 2.4 scales pretty well in Z direction. I can see that. Yes, I can see that. Wow, really, Tom. I think it's just I rarely need Z space on the stuff that I print. And also the parts that are printed for the Voron, I think none of them are really taller than 4 centimeters or something, 40 millimeters. So yeah, the Z-axis is like the least interesting axis to me, which might be why Delta printers were kind of a fad. I don't know. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. Ta-da! So there's 2, and there's 2 more. That's better. So there is the I shouldn't bend that frame like that. There is the frame built, and we have some Z rails installed. Rail spacing, we did all that. Having to take these off again would be crazy. This page intentionally left blank, which means we can have a quick drink of some tap water.
We are a big fan of your videos and Voron. It's on our to-do list to build a plugin for either Fluid or Mainsail.
All right, thanks for that, Spaghetti Detective. Yeah, I'm guessing the high dehumidifier. I'm guessing the static nature of the bed of the Voron would be pretty good for doing like webcam time lapses, because you don't have the bed moving back and forth. You're just building the print up. Yeah, time lapse is really good, and also for what the Spaghetti Detective does with the AI print failure detection. Not that I think this printer will ever produce a failure, but you know, just in case, that would be pretty good because you have no motion blur or anything. Okay, do you have to go back and check that all the screws and bolts are tight? Nah. No gummy bears around, unfortunately, yeah. So, next up, after the page left intentionally blank, which is weird in the PDF manual, but anyways, the Z drive assembly. So, this is where that point of this thing being kind of over-engineered comes into play. So, this is just to drive one side or one corner of each.
I'm late to the party. Really cool build, Tom.
One of each Z corner. So we're gonna have a completely moving up and down XY core XY assembly, and then each corner is gonna have its own drive unit. But I'm guessing that means we can drop the frame off behind me real quick. Yeah, one of the good things about rigid frame is you can just toss it around, as long as you don't bump it around and get it out of alignment. Actually, we can. That's the cheapo bit, but there's that. If you want a sense of scale, that's the 300mm bed in the printer. 300, also 300 tall, so that's going to be the maximum build height, basically. Disappointed by the lack of a sanctioned snack break call out. Yeah, that's actually that's a tip for the Voron team. Like, use that blank page and use that blank page and mandate a snack break. Okay. Yeah, Z drive. So there's an accent print piece in there. There's another accent print piece down there. There's a foot. You have a motor, pulley, small belt, large pulley, and then in that back hole back there, I'm assuming that's where you're going to get a belt popping out that actually attaches to each of the corners of the XY, or of the core XY assembly that goes up and down. So that's what we're going to build next. This is an 18. Where do I have my 18s? There it is. Yep. I do have more screws if you lose some. All right. Z drive assembly. So this is, you can already see the heat set inserts in there. We're going to try and heat set those as well. All right, components. Pulley, motor, inserts, printed parts. Let's try and find those. So I'm hoping these bags these are labeled 1, 2, and 3. I'm hoping these are in order for the order that you're going to need them in. There is a packing list. There is a packing list that was included with all the little bits and bobs and printed parts. All the printed parts that are included in that kit. For some reason, the accent colored parts aren't marked off, but they are included. So that's all the parts that were printed. And I'm guessing they are, yeah, so that they are in function, sorted by function group. But then I also have the backs that are labeled 1, 2, 3. So this is one, and this actually looks like it's the one we need. So we should have 4 corners, which means we should have 4 identical or at least mirrored sets of parts. So these are identical. These are 4 identical parts as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 motor brackets. Then these look like something. Oh, these are angry. Why are these angry? Little angry block right there. There we go. Oh, we also have that perspective. Yeah, I didn't use that yet. 4 blocks of these. 4. There's the rail alignment tool. We might need those later. And 4 of these. So I'm thinking that's going to be 4 corners. 4 of each. 4 corners. 4 identical components. And then we also need some accent pieces, which we're going to need those in a second. We're going to need those in a second. We'll get to those once we need them. So motor mounts. There's going to be an axle going through these. Idlers, I hear these are. Idlers. Oh God. And then some part that I have no idea what it does. But basically, pulleys and doing heatset inserts for these. So these parts and these just have the through holes on them. So these will get some, thankfully they aren't wobbling around. These will get some heatset inserts. So let me grab my soldering station. That's why I have my soldering station with me today. And I do have a tip that I ground down. You can see that hopefully, oh, why is this loose? Oh, that's fantastic. You should not be falling apart right now. That's a bad time to fall apart. No, no, no. That feels solid. Whew. That is stressing me out. Okay, are these MJF parts? No, these are Fdm parts. These are what the Voron apparently is capable of. So these were printed on a Voron 2.051. And this is what that machine produces, all ABS parts. Yeah. ABS, printed on a regular printed. 0.2 millimeter layer height too. I already said like, well, I don't think this is 0.2, but I don't believe it's 0.2, but it is 0.2. So yeah, I do have that special tip, as I said. Hope you can see that right there. That should allow me to slide one of these inserts right onto it, like so, and then that is not going to jam if you just go in the other half. Hold on. Okay. Thanks for catching that. I would have wondered why they wouldn't fit. Okay, these parts... Why are you so blurry? This is where we're going to need to install the heated inserts and the heatset inserts. Okay. That's the manual, that's the part. Right, I guess the lack of this large detail should have been a dead giveaway. Whoops. Okay, but theoretically, this should be the correct side. Theoretically, I should be able to push these in. And there we go, that's set. It does feel rather loose. It doesn't feel like it's like really smushing its way in, but that's what we have. So the iron is set to 250. I guess I could go a bit higher than that. And just to give it a quick test fit. Yep, M3 fits perfectly. Yeah, and it's pretty hard to pull out. Temp low and slow, go 200. Okay, I'll turn it down to like 250. And I know the temperature on that iron is pretty low. It's lower than what it says it is. I'll just preset all these while that cools down a bit. The screws will go, yeah, the screws will go in from the other side. I thought as much since it has a through hole, and this looks like it has the matching counter bores. So I'm guessing you don't even need this style of insert. This is the nicer style of threaded insert. You could go with the cheaper ones as well. Though the problem with the cheaper ones, with the super cheaper ones, is they like to kind of create a neck at the bottom. So as you try to screw into them from the bottom, you would have that wall of plastic you'd have to screw through first. For the stream, go 450. Yeah. Iron should be down at temperature, but I'm gonna finish setting all these first. Yeah, I mean, obviously these need to be very particular diameter. These are much larger than the cheap ones. But what I'm saying is that the parts could have been designed for the cheap ones if it's just pulling from the other side. The parts could also have been designed for just using a nut, a square nut, or something that gets, you know, that is sunk into this side. But heatside inserts are just so nice to have. You know, you set them and they're not going to fall out. They're not going to rattle around. They're going to be a zero slop solution for this exact problem. So let's do this one first. I also like the way that these sit in there before you set them. So the iron is saying 214. Eh. Still 214. 214 is what I'm going to tell you it is set to. But it is very satisfying for these to watch these go in. Also, the feeling you get on the iron tip, it's just like it's gliding in. It's a very satisfying job to do. Very satisfying task to do. So, I mean, so far as the kit goes, it's not that bad. I did expect worse. I did review a printer from Formbot before, which was the Raptor 2.0, and that thing was... oh no. Bumped it. That thing was something, so I was having pretty low expectations for this kit, but so far I think it's very usable. I think it's very okay. Except for that one, you know, that one extrusion that wasn't drilled all the way, but that's a pretty easy fix. Make sure to have ventilation running. This room does have ventilation, but we're not like remelting ABS. Just a really small bit of ABS that's getting heated up. Shouldn't be a huge issue. Okay, and then we need to do the 3 of the one that I bumped out. Camera, please. Back on manual focus. I guess I could also change the autofocus just to be box focus and not full screen face detect. Your iron tip should not be that long. Well, sorry, my tip is just long. It's the way it is. These tips, by the way, if you want to make one yourself, it's super easy. You just file down a tip. I think I put this one in a drill chuck and filed it down until it was that shape. Pretty much perfect solution. I think you can buy these too if you want a ready-made solution, but yeah. Hasso asking printed parts came with the kit. No, the printed parts did not come with the kit. That I think is the one component that you do not get included with the Formbot kit. However, you can buy them outright from the Voron Printed Forward team, which is a group of volunteers basically that are printing more Voron parts on their Vorons. The set for the 2.4 is $100 if you want to buy it, and that is the exact parts that I'm using. These are parts from the PIF group as well. They are very nice. They're probably nicer than they need to be, but that's kind of the recurring theme with this entire printer. And there we go. That's all the heat sets satisfyingly heat set. And these are all just below flush. There are printed parts from AliExpress available. They are questionable, says Nero. Well, as is most stuff on AliExpress. Well, some stuff is less questionable than others, but yeah. Nice of his. Think you can choose it as an option with the kit? I don't think you can. I don't. Can you? I don't know. Printed forward. Yes, printed forward. Oh, Hasso asked that. Sorry for not explaining that. All right, so we have 4 parts with the heat sets all installed. Next up, 4 motors. So these motors have the wrong connections on them, and I will need to recrimp them at some point. I will also need to recrimp the motors, or the cables that are on the XY or on the AB motors. But I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm just going to keep the original cables on them, which is, I believe, PH connectors, the standard stepper connectors, which is JST? Whatever, standard stepper connectors, that's what they come with, which works for an SKR or the Spider board, but does not work for Duet. So, yeah. I will need to recrimp these eventually, or make an adapter or something. I do have motors that come with the little sockets with the connectors on the sides and don't have the fixed cable, but I mean I have 2 boxes of spare steppers, but I'm not sure if those fit the spec that the Voron build requires. So my guess is that the motors that are included with the Formbot kit are closer to that Voron spec, because they are labeled with that exact spec number. So cool. Why not print yourself without Prusa? The Voron team reached out and offered to send me these parts, and I was like, well, if you guys would rather have me use parts that you know are not going to give me trouble, I will gladly use your parts. Saves me a bit of printing time. So I could have totally printed these myself, but the Voron team offered to send parts, so I'm not going to say no to that. So, pulleys. Where are pulleys in here? Already shuffling parts around. Pulleys. Now that's idlers. There's more yeah, bye pulleys. I'm guessing that's one of those two. Are these identical? No. So there's two types of pulleys that are included. There is the... should just switch the autofocus mode on this thing. There's the 16 tooth 5mm 2GT and the 9mm P5, whatever P5 stands for. But this is the one that we're going to need, I think. What printer would you recommend for schools? You know, schools and like public institutions are a bit tricky because usually a school is going to require special types of certification and compliance or whatever from the printer manufacturers. So that already eliminates, and if you're in the US, like I think you can only buy from US companies, that already eliminates so many options that would be great for schools. Which is, I think, where Loadspot had a lot of its... We will apply threadlock to this in a second. Which is where Loadspot, I think, had a lot of its business, which was schools, because they were a US company. Matter Hackers also have their line of printers, I think, geared somewhat towards schools and institutions. But really, it depends on where you are and what your requirements are, as usual. There is no blanket... this is the best printer for school statement, I think. Like if you can use the Prusa's, obviously those are the printer that I right now go to when I want to print something is the Mark III. But there are other printers that do that job as well. Again, if your school can buy those, or buy minis if you're on a budget. That works out. Yeah, and thankfully, okay, if you're in Germany, like shipping from the Czech Republic isn't that bad. Go with that. Don't try and build anything yourself. Like that's you're gonna be responsible for that then for the rest of your career. And yeah, I don't know if you really want to do that. So grub screws need Loctite. I know. I'm putting that on in a second. So manual calls for using 2 grub screws. Though, because these motors do have the D shaft, they do have, well, that's hard to see. So D shaft, I mean, you know what these stepper motor shafts look like, sort of, right there. One side is cut down. If we just add a second screw from the side, that I don't think that's really going to do much. So, actually these go on the other way. So if you plop that on like this, and tighten that screw down, that's going to set down on the D shaft, on the D of the shaft, the flat side, and that's going to be pretty much all the torque that's going to transfer. So yeah, I usually just go with 1 grub screw, slather it with threadlock, and that should be good. Is there a alignment required for these pulleys? It looks like it's actually, it's a bit past flush, so it's a bit inset. I'm thinking this should just be aligned to the end of the shaft. So flush with the end of the shaft. That's what I'm thinking. You align them with the belt. Okay, so I'm putting threadlock on now, and then we're aligning them later. Okay, just hoping this doesn't set up before we make it to that step. I'm just thinking of the of the newest video from Stuff Made here right now, where it's like, hey, you have all your parts work in a vacuum, but as soon as you assemble them, stuff goes wrong, and it's going to be hard to diagnose. That's what I'm getting as a vibe right now with the hey, you apply thread lock now and then you assemble it and then like you align it later. I'm hoping that stuff is still going to be accessible now. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to apply thread lock later. That's why I'm putting it on now. I don't want to assemble it all and then have to take it out again, but yeah. By the way, great video from Stuff Made here. The door lock, yeah, with lockpicking lawyer. Love that sort of stuff. So this one's just going to go on flush for now. Flush-ish. Plenty of room to put it on later. Well, I don't know that. I'd rather have it on now. I'd rather have it on and not need it than not have it on and need it later and not have it. Have Creality offered you a CR01? Nope. Don't think so. Need to invest in some good quality CR01 scanner. Hold on. No, just did that. You need to invest in some good hex drivers. Yeah, you can see I'm starting to go on autopilot. That's dangerous. That's where I start to make mistakes. So we'll see how much longer I can last here. Need to invest in some good quality hex keys. Yeah, this is just the one that I grabbed out of my random hex key box. I do have some nicer drivers here. I know T handles, all that. Once I grow up, I'll get some nice ones, I promise. There's some motors. 4 little motors. Okay, so that's on. Heatside inserts are in. Don't use red. Red is like one stronger, right? I also have purple. No, I have green. I have green. Don't use green. Don't use green on anything. Like, you're never gonna get those apart again. Whew. Don't ask me how I know. That was an expensive mistake. Okay, so these motors are, I guess we're gonna set these aside for now. Grub screws we're not gonna need. So now we are assembling a shaft. Belt drive shaft. We're gonna need the pulleys, we're gonna need some bearings, we're gonna need shims. That's the other pulleys then, okay. Is that the other pulleys? 20-tooth 9mm. Is that these? I guess. Oh yeah, right, because these are what's going to be driving the Z-axis then directly. Get a box dedicated to hex. Yeah, so this is just the box of like random printer stuff. You know, when I take apart a kit, stuff goes in here, and I take out and put back in as I need to. So we are going to need these pulleys. Pulleys. What are you? You are F695. We don't need you yet. But we need the 625s, and we also need some shafts. We also need some shafts. I'm hoping I can find those. That's idlers. Belts. I'm thinking we're gonna need belts, right? Some more pulleys. That's XY. There's some open loop belt. Ah, found him. Found him. Shaft. 5x60. Because I guess these are the only Oh, these are D shafts. Interesting. Okay, so these have the D groove or the D flat cut on them. Interesting. Let me go through the chat real quick. Do we know the differences between, or quality differences between the different kits? No idea. Ask Nero or one of the other folks who have built multiple of these before. I so far only know this kit and it's alright. Vibra-Tight is nice for thread locking. So also not closed loop. I'm guessing I should leave these in the box then. Somebody asked how are you capturing the screen of your iPad? Well, guess what? It ain't no iPad. It's an HP convertible, HP Pavilion convertible. Ah, there they are. What else? Wiring takes 6 lifetimes to crimp. I'm hoping to have a. That's 4, yeah. Hoping to have a finished wiring loom here tomorrow that fits these exact components that I'm using, including the Do-It. So nobody likes wiring. Yeah, I was gonna grab the. Yeah, and so the bags in this kit, the bags in this FormBot kit are labeled. So for example, the ones that I just took out of that was GT2 9mm. So I'm gonna put the GT2 9mm belts back into that one because the individual baggies are not labeled at all. Bearing shaft, shims, pulleys. Guessing that's these, yeah. Bearing, pulley, okay. Should have it all. Good belt. What is this labeled? Gates. Oh, look at that. So supposedly this is a. There you go. Gates belt. If that is, I mean, if that is accurate, that these are genuine Gates belt. The other ones also say Gates. So if that is accurate, if these are actually Gates belts, that is a very good step. At least that is, you know, something that you're not going to have to upgrade later on. So I mean, any of the cheap belts, I would say it's like. You use those, you throw those out. Like if you're building a Voron, there is no point in using cheap belts. But these feel rigid. These do look good. So these are some chonkers of a pulley. These are 80 tooth. I think I've bought 80 tooth before, and these are not cheap. These are like $8 to $10 each, at least the last time I bought them. They're pretty big pulleys, but I guess they are what allow. Do you actually need them? They are what give the Z-axis its resolution for the most part and its holding torque. So because these basically gear down the stepper motor so much, you're not going to have issues with your Z-axis drop or with your entire assembly of your X, Y, Z gantry basically dropping down, I think. So, yeah, unfortunately they are required, for better or for worse. Yeah, the belts do look legit. And there we go. Since switchwise, some people use keybacks. What is a keyback? So yeah, folks below Z resolution. Yes, you also theoretically get extra Z resolution. If you have auto bed leveling like Z resolution on your stepper motors, is not going to be that big of a deal because you basically have dithering in the motion of that axis now. But if you don't use bed leveling, auto bed leveling, then yeah, that is going to be something to consider. Oh, that's a nice pulley box. That's a nice stack of shafts. Camera, come on. There you go. Retractable key holder for what? Why are you not going in? Oh, there you go. Oh, those belt key. Okay, okay. I just know him in ski resorts that he used for your key card or something. For a day pass that they use at the lifts. Right. So, assembly. Bearing, pulley, double shim, bearing, double shim, small pulley, bearing. No shims because no shims around the outside bearings. I'm guessing that's just going to be free floating, which is going to be fine. Let me zoom that in. Okay. Can you show the blue glue? It's thread lock, medium strength. Just regular blue thread lock. Nothing special really. So that goes on like this. I'm going to put the bearing on last because that's just going to keep falling off. These are not threaded all that well. There is like a bit of swarf at the very bottom. That, then 2 shims. Oh, that shim has... Ouch. That shim has a good amount of swarf on the inside. I'm going to set that aside for now. Hopefully we have enough spares that we can not use that one. 2 shims. 2 shims. Then bearing. And the shims came off. Perfect. What Hotend did I use with the kit? This kit came with an E3D V6 clone, which actually looks pretty decent. But I will be using the Slice Engineering Magnum Plus with this, which is it's going to be a wild ride to get that to work, but especially because the printer is not made for the Magnum Plus. But yeah. Magnum Plus is going to go in here, so, you know, if one thing's certain, we're not going to be limited by the melt rate of the Hotend in this build. Speed is not going to be limited by that at all. They're claiming like something like 90 cubic millimeters a second, just for, come on. Just for reference, a typical Prusa profile on the Mark III, I think, is limited to 15. And Magnum Plus is saying, okay, we're fine until we hit 90. So, yeah, the motion system is going to be the thing that caps out first, for sure. So there's that bearing in the center. Don't even know if you need that center bearing. So that's, I'm assuming that's going to sit in these like that. And it has a bearing on each side. It has a bearing on either end. It has a bearing on either end. Not sure if it needs the center one, but hey, it's there. Oh yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, it does need the center bearing. Hold on, because the center bearing is actually what aligns this longitudinally, along the axis of the shaft. So this one on the end, yeah, because the two at the end are free floating. The one in the center is the one that holds it left to right. So that's pretty good. That is pretty smart. And you don't even need to like perfectly align each bearing or align the shaft that perfectly because, well, look at that. It's off like by 2 or 3 millimeters and still rides perfectly fine. That is nice. Having something that that spins with a bit of mass to it, with a bit of inertia to it, is that's satisfying. Okay, so there is one of the Z-axis transmissions, I guess you could call this, or gearboxes. Done. Just 3 more to build. Did I put thread lock on this? I think I did, yeah. So basically the position of this shaft just needs to be slightly poking out. And then we can go ahead and lock this one down right away. Make sure the grubs have liberal thread locker. Yes, they do have plenty of thread locker, and I think I'm going to tighten that one down again in a second, just to make sure it's in there. Printer will be missing a Z-axis pulley. Unfortunately, yeah, this I guess it's rigid enough so that it can work with 3, right? Just gonna make sure these are all tightened down well. You're threading into aluminum, but the grub screws are pretty long, so you can torque these down fairly well. What material did I print these parts from? Did I print the printed parts from? I did not print these parts. These were from the Voron printed forward team, and they're all ABS. So the recommendation and the requirement for these parts is ABS because they are technically in an enclosed volume. They are backing up and supporting motors that are going to have quite a bit of heat output if you run them at high currents to sustain the speeds and all that. And yeah, did I not already do these pulleys? No. Yeah, the parts are going to see some significant amount of heat. And yeah, well, you could probably go with PTG. You could get away with PTG. ABS is the safe option. There is that, and that goes on like so. I keep referencing the manual here, just to make sure we're building this one with all the parts in the correct spots. Seen PTG fail way too often, please don't use it. Okay. Okay. Do not use PTG. Do not use PTG then. That's a recommendation from Nero, who has way more experience with building these than I do. So, Austin saying Voron is a DIY printer king. The thing is, the Voron is a very special kind of DIY printer. This is the printer where there's no holds barred. Is that how you say that? No tabs pulled. No restraint on how far to go with the design and with implementing the concepts that the folks want to see implemented. Like, hey, you want a 4-motor Z-axis drive with a what is this, 16 to 80 gearing? Sure, let's do it. Reasonable printer designers would find a way to work around that. People who are just enthusiastic about the entire thing and want to have the best possible and the least expenses spared kind of build, they design a Voron. And that makes for a non plus ultra. That's a good term to describe it. That makes for a very nice build in the end, indeed. So 2 more to build. These do go pretty quickly, thankfully. Maybe add the closed belts for now. I'm gonna assemble all 4 of these gearboxes, of these gearing shafts for now. I guess belt reduction shafts to be more accurate. And then we can move on to building the entire assembly that these are being used in. You don't buy a Voron, you build a Voron. Yeah, that is true. I mean, you can't really buy a assembled Voron at all. You have to build it, and that is part of the process. I mean, I keep recommending people to buy, again, the Prussias as a kit if they have the chance, if they think they can handle the build, which isn't that bad. And I don't think that the Voron build so far has been that bad. It's just, it's going to take a while. But if you can handle the build, and if you have the time to do so, building a printer is always going to be a much more educational experience than just buying one. Also because you learn about the machine. You learn about the ways that it works, the ways that it can fail possibly, and well, you get intimate with that machine. You learn about its ins and outs, and in the end, when something goes wrong, there's not an if. That is when something goes wrong, and when you're puzzled by something that's going on, you will know much more about the fact that this thing is completely out of focus than if you had just outright bought a machine. So yeah, kit building is something I think is very much worthwhile. So more shims. Somebody suggested, hey, you should speedrun the last one and beat the record. What do you mean I should speedrun the last one? Oh, speedrun the assembly of the last of the 4 Z-corner pieces? Maybe. But we're past that. Somebody should put up a speedrun timer or something. But I guess it's one thing to build it with average amounts of preparation. I'm gonna say I'm not totally unprepared, but I've not read through the entirety of the manual or something. And it's one thing to do it like that, to do a first build, and to build this thing for the, I don't know, 5th time or something like Nero has done. Okay. And at that point, you can look into doing speedruns. It's the same with like doing video game speedruns. You don't do that the first time you play it. You do it the 50th and the 200th, the 200th time you play it. You do a speedrun, but not the first time. The first one you just enjoy the ride, right? So there is 4 of the gearboxes, whatever, built. Next, let's consult the manual. Apply thread lock compound, not only to the 9mm grub screws, yes, but also the ADT. I think the no, they see the same torque. Okay, install Heatside Inserts. Oh, we got more Heatside Inserts. That is nice. Assemble belt drive. We're just using. I'm guessing we can assemble these and then install the Heatside Inserts later on. M3x40. That's these. When you can already see that the sticker is like dissolving from the oil that they used. I hate that shipping oil that they use. Basically, I mean, the main reason why so many components are oiled up straight from China is so that they don't rust on the ship, basically. These screws, do they need to be oiled up? I don't know, but it just makes working with them unpleasant. And also the thing with these black screws, what are these called? Not anodized. Anyway, with these black screws, the thing is also, once the oil wears off and once, I don't know, you clean that off and they see the slightest amount of moisture, these are going to start to rust. These will look so nasty in 2 years' time. I do prefer stainless black oxide. Yeah, nitrate. Yeah. I do prefer stainless or just plain old galvanized screws because they don't. There's no downside to using them. Sure, these look nice because they're black and all, but I would prefer using galvanized screws with this. Right. Zoom. So, make an alcohol bath. Yeah, I mean the thing is, as the more of the oil you remove, the easier they rust. So that is kind of a choice you have to make. Do you get oiled up while you build it, or do you degrease them, and do you have a rusted up printer in a bit of time? So yeah. Why did you consider building a Voron? The question is like, why did you not, or why would you not consider building a Voron? There's one. Then the other half just goes on like this. Okay, these are a bit sticky. Maybe that was printed onto glue stick, perhaps. And then these screws just go in from that side. And hopefully they're long enough to reach to those Heatside Inserts. Why didn't you consider building one earlier? Yeah, that's a better question. Time, I guess. Had other stuff going on. Are the aluminum 80 tooth gears interchangeable with the M4 extruder ones? Not sure what that question is. Okay, so those screws are slightly sticking out on the bottom. So not sure if you can see that, but yeah, they're just ever so slightly sticking out. The seat that these screw heads sit down onto is not a counterbore. It's actually a countersink at the bottom of this counterbore. So it's basically enough space for the screw head to go in, and then it's a taper. It's a 45-degree taper. I guess that is for printability, but that also means the contact patch of your screw head is going to be quite small, and you can feel while tightening them down how that compresses down. The problem with that is this might creep over time. I'm sure the Voron team has thought about that and has thought of that, but just one note. Maybe do the bridging layer that you drill through instead of having that taper, because this is a very soft tightening experience. You were saying no issues so far. I mean, this is not a critical part or anything, but it just feels weird. Oops. Oh, you know what? I have a tool for that. Why am I doing that by hand? If only I found my, there they are. The correct driver. That takes just way too long. So torque, let's see, that should be good. That is interesting. So that is actually, you can see that is actually pulling the insert into the part. Let's do that with the one next to it as well. Yeah, but not that much. I guess I should click the torque down a bit on these. Torque limit on this Ryobi isn't all that good. But I'm guessing that's tight. That's going to be properly tight. All right, next one. Whoops. Why not the Bosch anymore? Because the Bosch is dying. All of my 12-volt Bosch tools are failing, and I've had enough of that. On that, oh, this one. On that Bosch driver that I used to use, that actually had working torque limiting, the trigger is starting to fail. So you pull the trigger, and the LED starts lighting up, and nothing happens. So I chose to try Ryobi, and it's very mediocre as expected. Belt, 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 belt. Okay, okay, I see you. I see you. Does this need a belt? Really? There we go. Thank you for that. That's why I have YouTube, the YouTube stream mode on ultra low latency. So you guys write something, I see it within seconds. Thank you. Stop using the drill. I don't know. Goes so much faster. I know, I should just get a T-handle driver or something. I'll finish it off by hand, okay? But the question is, like, how tight should these be? Because again, I can feel it kind of pulling into the material and sinking down into that 45-degree counter bore. I'll just do that. I think that's about right. That's always been good enough for M3 for me. Just to not use, never use an M3 Allen key with the long end. You're just gonna rip off the screw or strip the thread or something. Always do short end and use your fingers like that, and that gives you a good amount of torque that is not gonna rip the screw apart. Where's the rest? There's the rest. Oh, that one's spinning pretty darn well. Belt. Right. Wow stick screwdriver. Thanks for the 2, Benjamin. What is the wow stick screwdriver? Are you meaning like the... Are you referring to like the... Who has those? Xiaomi, I think, sells those. Like the actual electric screwdrivers. Are those any good, actually? Always wondered about them, but I was like, well, this is what I use for driving screws. But are those electric screwdrivers any good? I guess they... The thing is also, I can drive these so fast, I don't want to wait on like a slow electric screwdriver. The only reason I use a power tool is because it's faster. I thankfully I'm not that old yet. I still have a functioning wrist, but yeah, they are great. ES121. Okay. Tight until it goes loose, then back off quarter turn. Okay, okay. How old is Tom? Too old. Turning 30 next month. No, turning 30 this month. Oh god, it's already June. This is coming at me fast. Yeah, the other thing with drivers also is like the I've tried the Bosch IXO, which is basically, so this is a 3-cell, this is a 12 volt, 10.8 volt tool, and the IXO is a single cell tool, and those are so slow and boring. But they are exactly that. They are bit driver only tools that are made for driving small screws like this. And this is like the smallest tool that I'm willing to use. The IXO is just not nice to use.
Frühlingsfarbe in the United States of lasagna building.
Thank you for the 5, Mr. Peepee Butthole. But the I mean, the name makes sense, but the text kind of makes no sense at all. It's like, all right. 12-volt Parkside. I'm guessing the Parkside is a tool from Lidl. That's pretty much the same as this Ryobi tool, I'm thinking. Come on. Use an air impact would sound great. Oh, I do have... That's actually something I can try. So, impact drivers that I used to recut the thread. Yeah, but impact drivers are surprisingly great. Like you can use these surprisingly... What's the word? You can get a surprisingly good feel for what you're doing with impact drivers. I was for the longest time, I was going like, well, who needs an impact driver? Americans use them all the time, but like, who really needs them? I guess it's just a thing that they do. But then I got when I was like, wow, this is actually really good. But yeah, I wouldn't really want to use it for an M3 thread. That's like the one thing where I'm like, okay, this is too much power tool for the job. Okay, so this is the last one. Last one for the Z-axis, I guess gearboxes or whatever you want to call them. They are called officially the belt drive module. And there we go. 4 of them assembled. That was quite a few little individual parts. So it was the shaft, the pulley, 4 spacers, the large pulley, 3 bearings, 6 heatside inserts, which we're going to add more to in a second, 6 heatside inserts, and 2 of the printed parts. It's quite a few parts for each of these corners. Wow. So more heatside inserts. 3 more, in fact. And they go in up here, I think. And these will actually, so the ones here, the ones that we did here, they actually get pulled on, they get sucked into the part by the screw. And these will get pulled out of the part, it looks like. So this sits flat, okay. And while this iron heats up to 200 degrees, of course it's 200 degrees. Let me just pre-position these. Everything smells like oil, by the way. Everything smells like that screw oil. My fingers smell like it. The table's going to smell like it. The entire room smells like it. These parts are probably going to be covered in oil stains once we're done. I guess the smart move would have been just supplying my own screws, using my own screws. I do have all these screws as just galvanized versions. I have them at hand. I have them here. I didn't even need to. I wouldn't even need to order them. But I was gonna try the kit. Should have substituted the screws because you don't think about it. You don't think about the fact that hey, the screws are probably gonna be iffy or nasty to work with. It's just like, well, screws should be like the smallest issue. No gloves. Well, working in rubber gloves or in nitrile gloves is just not pleasant. Separate the trash that goes there. That's not hot enough to ignite alcohol, so that's good. Just wipe my hands down with some ethanol. Smells better now. Oh la la. Yes. Look at that. That's never gonna get old. Oh, especially when it's totally blurry. Let's try this one. This one's nope. No. Can't back out of that. Let me get you like a real nice close-up of these going in. There we go. Ooh. Flush. What is the temperature of the soldering iron? It's 200, of course, as recommended. I'm actually doing 250, but the recommended temperature is 200. It feels like you're like it's something sliding in a well-oiled contraption or something. You know that not the screw oil or something, but like a kind of a greased mate or something that's like tightly made, and it's just like just slides into position. That is very satisfying to do. We got popped all of those out. Got some more. Nope. Well, what's the C or F question? What is that F you're talking about? Press F to pay respects for people who don't know proper units, or what's the thing about that? Like pushing a marble through model clay? I guess. Because the plastic it doesn't melt. That's the thing about plastic. Plastic never really becomes a liquid. It just gets softer. And as you push it into plastic that is still cold and still hard, that kind of provides you a bit of resistance and stops it from just sliding in. Okay, there's that. So let's give it a quick check what we are up for next. So feet, I'm assuming this is. Feet, motors, and then comes the sandwich. So here's the plan. It's 8:30 right now, 8:30 p.m. I'm going to finish off the Z, what is this called? The Z belt drive module. I'm going to add the compressor feet. Are these printed parts? I'm hoping they are. And the motor mounts, and that's going to be it for today. People keep asking, hey, like, Tom, are you going to finish the build today? I'm like, it's a 25 to 30 hour build. Like, no, I'm not going to finish this today. But yeah, I will finish this today. Motor mounts as well as the feet, and then we're going to see each other again in, I think, 2 days. We'll see how much recovery I need tomorrow. Axis misalignment? What? We're going to see how much recovery I'm going to need tomorrow, but yeah, I'm not going to finish this today. Like, there's some things that are unrealistic. There's some that are just straight up crazy, but yeah, building a Voron in a day, especially first time building a Voron in a day, not the smartest thing. I don't think these are printed parts. I don't think these compressor feet are printed parts. I think these are, oh yeah, there they are. There they are. They are printed. What? They are printed parts. But they're printed parts that Voron supplied. No, what? Huh? Somebody help me out here. No, these are... What the heck is going on? So these are the parts that Formbot supplied. This is what they look like. So they are like a semi-soft rubbery material, but you see that up here? That looks like it's 3D printed. That looks like solid infill. That up here, that's what threw me off, because it looks like it's exactly, it looks exactly like it's a 3D printed top solid infill, but it's not. That is what threw me off. So the rest of the part looks normal. The rest of the part looks completely like a normal part, but just that spot up there. I don't know if this is like an insert or something, because it's not flush up top. Weird. Might be some sort of machining mark too, but that is weird indeed. So these go on to there with a plate in between. And that plate, I think, is printed in the accent color. Yep. There it is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And anything else we need? We need the motor mount. These are the wrong motor mounts, I think. So yeah, these are not the ones that we need. We're gonna need different ones for that. Okay. We'll grab those in a second once we need them. So these, wow, that is a very red. M5 nuts. Also very oily. Still not the mounts you're looking for, yeah.
Have a cake on
Those are
me.
updated version? Okay. Thanks for the $5, Carl. I will have a cake on you as soon as that's allowed and normal and acceptable again. Thank you. Okay, so this entire plate is a trap plate for the M5 nut, and then we have M3x8, which is the big bag that we have for the rails as well, that attach it to this this entire assembly, and then an M5x10 button head. So for these, four of the nuts, and then a whole bunch of these screws. So basically, plate accepts one of these nuts, and then that goes on to here, like so. And I'm hoping that's not going to fall out. Yeah, but if it wanted to fall out, it would have to rub up against the. Yep, if I pull this off, it would have to rub up against the large pulley. So that should be okay, especially because we're going to be pulling on it, and we're not going to be pushing that back in. And I'm hoping these screws, these M5 screws, are the correct length to not actually bite into that pulley. That would suck. That would be an issue that is or very hard to diagnose. Not impossible, but very hard to diagnose if you had to diagnose that. Like, oh, my Z-axis is binding. Why is my Z-axis binding? Well, because you adjusted your feet, your leveling feet or your compressor feet, and now you're digging into you're digging into your belt. Let's get these tight. Belts, you need the belts? You need the belt. Which belts do we need? Don't forget about the belt. Which belt? Hold on. So we've got the big belt in there. What belts? The belt loops. Okay, those belts. Okay. And these belts. Yeah. Belt is in there. These are all assembled and they all have the belt in them. I checked. Okay, Voron design is already trolling me. Okay, we're off to a fantastic start. Okay, that is barely gripping. That's good. That's not going to be too long for this to freely turn. Perfect. That was this one. Maybe get this one tight. So this one doesn't have to be, I mean, it's a rubber foot, right? It doesn't have to be super, wow. That actually stands on it. I did not expect it to stand by itself. Okay. Yeah, I guess because you have the large pulley. That's still spinning freely, very freely. The belt is in there. The foot is at the... That looks like a very wonky part for some reason. I know it's going to attach to the frame and all, but... because it's just so offset. Okay. There's one... Why are you slow? Why are you here? That's the question why that I'd like to ask. Come on. Oh, wrong key. How do these things tighten the belt? So right now there's no belt tightening in this mechanism as far as I can see. So these are going to be the motor mounts, I'm told. And it looks like they attach to the frame directly with some M5 screws. So I'm thinking just by pulling that motor away, does it have a tensioner? It has a tensioner, okay. Has a tensioner built in, so that's taken care of. That tensioner piece is actually a contrast or an accent colored part as far as I know, as far as I've seen that. It's like a little bird mouth kind of tensioner. That spins freely, that's good. 2 down. It feels like this should be sticking down. It feels like this should be something that actually just suctions onto your table, but it doesn't. It's just because the center of gravity is so far towards the center of these. I don't know. Can't get over that. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. There you go. So, more like these. Where do we have... Oh. Yeah, it's time for me to call it a day. I was looking for the place to screw this part to on the one that I had already screwed the part onto. So yeah, I am running out of steam today. That's why I'm not doing 24-hour streams anymore. I mean, I did that 16-hour, what was it, Atom 2.0 live build. I'm not doing that again. That's just... You're just done for the week after that. So yeah, I want to build this in a semi-efficient way, which is you know, building as long as I can go and streaming as long as I can go. And turns out that point is 3 hours. So I don't know how many streams we're gonna have to do here, but I feel like we're making good progress. I feel like we are making some decent progress. It's starting to feel like a printer. We have a frame. Frame's behind us. We have a frame. We have some Z-axis drives. We have a nut that we just lost. And we're assembling stuff. Next week for another stream? I mean, I could do like one every week and just make it a recurring theme, but I kind of want to get this one done. So next stream either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. This one's still, yeah. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and yeah, depending on what I feel like tomorrow. The thing with live streams is always, yeah, it's 50% everything working and tech working out and all that. Well, probably not 50%, probably like 20%. But it's just 80% of, hey, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling like streaming today? And I can't force myself to do that. It needs to be, I need to be in the right mood to make this a good stream, right? So yeah, if I'm not feeling like it, if I'm not feeling like I'm totally up to it that day, I say, okay, let's do it the next day, because I want these streams to be good. There's no point in like doing them a day earlier and just not doing them well, you know. There's one more thing I want to build today, and that is just or assemble today, and that's just the motors, the motor mounts. Right, that should be a quick one. It is literally just the mounts onto the motors, because we do have our 4 little piggies right there. We have our 4 little Z-axis motors. Are you? Oh, put you back into autofocus. We have our 4 little motors, and I'm told these are the correct motor mounts. So I'm gonna tend to believe that. I'm just gonna check if I have any other motor mounts that look like that I have 4. I shouldn't have 4 of any other motor mount, right? Because this is there's no other place in the printer where you're gonna use 4 identical motor mounts. This is just all extruded stuff. That should be good. Cable orientation, that's one of the things that's always important for these. So it looks like we're going to have the cable outlet towards the left of these if you have your mounting flange towards the top. Let's see if there's any other. Nope. So these are all going to be oriented in this exact way. So cable towards the left. So cable's going out the back here. And then basically to the left to the top, like that. And these just all get M3 by 8 screws, standard screw for anything in a 3D printer basically. And these are going to be attached then. Yep, that fits well. The NEMA 17 faceplate screw holes, I always feel like they are too shallow. I think they're like 4 millimeters deep. And yeah, that's always like just so that you can't. You might run into a situation where an M3 by 8 might be too short and an M3 by 10 might be too long. So that's I wish these threads were a bit longer in the faceplates, but you can't really do that without making the actual faceplate longer, because the screws that attach the bottom plate to them also screw into that same piece. So if you make that deeper, you'd give those screws less thread to bite into. Timothy, that's a good suggestion to pull the grub screws out if I don't install the install and align the motors today. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. It would be a big issue. I mean, just for everyone following, I already have the thread lock in these grub screws. But yeah, it's probably smarter to pull them out and to reapply some thread lock tomorrow, or just to pull them out. And now, thread lock is a material that sets anaerobically as far as one way. So as soon as you tighten it down and you smush those threads into each other, and they are like you lock out the oxygen, that's when that's when it's gonna sit down. Wait, that's when it's gonna not sit down. That's when that's gonna set is the correct word for that. Audio is really low. Yeah, so far it's been fine. And I actually do have some audio levels here in OBS, and yes, it is pretty low. I am peaking around 10 when I'm talking a bit more loudly, but typically we're at minus 50. Did I say 10? Minus 10. We are peaking at like minus 15, which is low. Yes, it is low for YouTube. Typically I'm at minus 5, but the alternative to that would be to have the compressor, which kind of levels out the volume, to have that set more aggressively. And if I do that, it's going to give you a very warbly, very exhausting profile to listen to. It's going to be like very dense, very like somebody's constantly shouting into your ear. Kind of feeling, and I feel that having this compressor not as aggressively just sounds more natural, even if it is a bit low. You can always turn up your speakers a bit, but you can't take out that negative effect the compressor is going to have. All right, there is 4 stepper motors all assembled. These are going to get mounted next time. That's going to mount to a frame. This is going to mount to a frame somehow. So what did we get done today? We made it through the entire intro of which parts we're using. That is at the very start of the stream. We assembled, let me get this bed off before I drop it. We assembled a frame. An entire Voron 2.4 frame with 4 linear rails in the corners that sometimes also slide. Bed mounts are in there. Those are going to need to get aligned. Next time, that's going to see the sandwich construction, which goes, I believe, over those bed rails, somewhere in there. We also have the 4 Z-axis. Where are we at? The 4 Z-axis gearboxes, I'm going to call them. They're called differently officially, but that's from the motorcycles here. Motor goes on the big belt to a smaller belt that's actually going to drive up the Z-axis on the rails, and we have the motor mounts attached. Very good. All right, that I think is going to be it for today. I can feel myself running out of steam, and I don't want to drag you along with me just limping along. That's not a good idea to do. Like I said, I will notify you all tomorrow or day after tomorrow when the next episode of this build airs. And until then, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Thank you to everyone who tipped during this stream. Thank you all for just being here, joining in, and filling up chat with hearts and positive thoughts and motivation. And yeah, have a great day. I will see you all sometime later. Goodbye.